So the first part of this question asks us to write this relationship as a function of r equals f of t. And this seems really confusing at first, but all it wants us to do is to get f of t by itself, or in a sense, get r by itself. So I'm going to subtract 4t on both sides. Just treat the 4t as like a normal number here. We're moving the whole thing over. So the opposite of a positive 4t is a negative 4t. So I subtract 4t on both sides. And we'll write this in the top right. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to write it right here. That would give us 2r equals 6 minus 4t. And then we got to get r by itself, so we would divide by 2. So dividing by 2, divide each of these terms by 2, would give us r equals 3 minus 2t. But it does want us to write it in terms of like f of t. So we're going to just replace the r with f of t. And that gives us f of t equals 3 minus 2t. Now notice that this letter here is the same thing as this letter here, which is what we want. Now that we have that, the next step is telling us to find the value of this equation when negative 3 is in for t. So we just put negative 3 in for every time we see t. And then we just solve this. So negative 2 times the negative 3 is a positive 6. So we have 3 plus 6. Which is going to equal 9. And what this means, in terms of like a coordinate point, if we had to graph it, that negative 3 comma 9 is a point on this equation up here, if we had to graph that. The last thing says, hey, let's solve our function f of t for 25. So all we're going to do is take this equation that we solved for, and we're going to put 25 in for f of t. So it's going to be 25 equals 3 minus 2t, and from there we can solve that pretty easily. We get rid of the stuff that's on the same side of the letter but not touching it. That's the negative 3, or positive 3, so we subtract 3 on both sides. That gives us 22 equals a negative 2t. And then the opposite or inverse of multiplication is division, so we divide both sides by negative 2, and that's going to give us that negative 11 is going to equal t as our answer. And if you ever got questions, ask your math teacher.